The story begins in the year 2063. Due to rising global temperatures and humanity's mistakes, sea levels have risen so much that most of Earth is now underwater. Only two continents remain above the surface, and both are constantly fighting over the planet's remaining resources. To defend itself, one continent built a massive military outpost in the middle of the ocean called Sentinel. The station is isolated at sea, and its crew is supposed to be replaced every 2 years. But this time, no one came. The crew has already spent 2 years and 3 months on Sentinel with no contact from the outside world. The remaining crew are Cassidy, Sullivan, Baines, and Hrix. He is captain. One night, a strong storm hits the outpost. Massive waves crash against the structure as Sullivan tries to catch fish. His net filled, but pulling it up is impossible because the storm is growing stronger. At the same time, a drainage pipe suddenly breaks inside the station. Baines goes to repair it, but while working, his hand gets stuck in the pipe. He barely manages to free himself. Meanwhile, Sullivan loses his grip and falls into the water, causing all the fish in the net to slip back into the ocean. Because the crew is running dangerously low on food, Sullivan desperately tries to catch the fish again. But with the storm becoming too powerful, he is finally forced to give up. The next morning, Sullivan and Baines are arguing because their food supplies are running low. Hrix orders them to stop fighting and focus on their duties. Baines is extremely frustrated and tells Hrix to contact headquarters and ask why no ship has arrived to relieve them. Hrix replies that the telegraph machine is only meant for sending reports, then walks away. After that, Sullivan sends the day's report to the base through the telegraph. Every day, he's been sending the same message, no events. And every day, he receives the same response. A short time later, Hrix spots a ship on the radar and asks Cassidy to confirm it. Sullivan becomes excited, believing that the rescue team has finally arrived. But Hrix warns everyone to stay alert, saying the ship could belong to the enemy. Cassidy tries to contact the vessel, but no one responds. Hrix orders the weapons to be prepared and sends Sullivan to inspect the ship and report back. When Sullivan boards the vessel, his communication suddenly cuts off. Inside, he finds no one aboard. However, he discovers food supplies in 4 bags. He realizes that this must be the relief ship, but he has no idea what happened to the crew. Back at Sentinel, Hrix assumes the ship belongs to the enemy and fears Sullivan has been killed. He decides to destroy the vessel and demands the weapons activation key from Cassidy. Cassidy refuses, but when Hrix becomes increasingly aggressive, she reluctantly hands it over. Just before Hrix can activate the weapons, Sullivan re-establishes contact. Hrix immediately stops and keeps the key with him. Soon, Sullivan returns to the station and tells everyone what he found. He says they should report the ship to headquarters, but Hrix refuses. He wants to investigate further before sending a detailed report. Afterward, the crew takes iodine baths to make sure they haven't been exposed to any infection. By now, everyone is becoming uneasy with Hrix's behavior. Because of this, Sullivan secretly sends a telegraph message to the base without telling Hrix. Only Cassidy and Baines know about it. The next day, the 3 of them gather to wait for a response. Hrix arrives and asks what they are doing. Baines tells him that they are waiting for a reply from the base. Hearing this, Hrix becomes furious with Sullivan. Just then, a message comes through the telegraph machine. Everyone is shocked when they see that it is the exact same automated response they have been receiving every day. This means that for weeks, they have not been receiving real messages from the base at all. Now Hrix becomes suspicious. He takes the navigation history from the ship and begins plotting its coordinates on Sentinel's map to determine the vessel's route. Later, Sullivan asks Baines why he went back to the ship so late at night. At first, Baines says nothing. Then Sullivan sits down with him for a drink. Baines reveals that he has not seen his family in more than 2 years, and he is determined to get off Sentinel no matter what. His plan is to repair the rescue ship's engine and escape. Sullivan is thrilled by the idea and immediately agrees to help him. Afterward, he shares the plan with Cassidy and tells her that once they escape from Sentinel, the 2 of them can live together. Cassidy is not happy to hear Sullivan's plan. The next day, Sullivan and Baines go to the ship together and successfully repair its engine. But when they return to Sentinel, Hrix is waiting for them. He orders them to go back to the ship, remove all the important parts, and leave the rest of the vessel to sink. After that, he says they will return to their guard duties. Both Baines and Sullivan flatly refuse. In response, Hrix pulls out his gun. Left with no choice, they agree to continue working on the ship. Even so, they have no intention of following Hrix's order to sabotage it. Before anything else happens, Cassidy calls Hrix aside and tells him that the real problem is with Sentinel's communication system. Their messages are not reaching the base at all. Later, we see Sullivan alone when Baines comes to meet him. Baines explains that he and Cassidy have decided to stay on Sentinel, while Sullivan and Baines should take the ship and deliver Hrix's letter to the base in person. Baines is thrilled by this idea, but Sullivan is disappointed because he wants Cassidy to come with them. He goes to Cassidy and asks her to leave with him and let Hrix stay behind. But Cassidy tells him that she does not love him. She says that whatever happened between them was only a way to pass the time. She urges Sullivan to leave and start a new life. Hearing this breaks Sullivan's heart. Sometime later, Hrix continues studying the coordinates from the abandoned ship and makes a shocking discovery. Someone had deliberately given the rescue ship false coordinates to keep it away from Sentinel. That means one of the 4 crew members is secretly working with the enemy. But even Hrix does not know who the traitor is. The next morning, another ship appears in the distance. Cassidy tries to contact it, but again, there is no response. This time, Hrix does not send anyone to investigate. Without hesitation, he opens fire on the ship, but Hrix misses a shot. A few moments later, the same ship appears in front of them, proving that this is not a second vessel, but the very same rescue ship. It is then revealed that Hrix was behind everything. He did not want anyone to leave Sentinel, so during the night, he secretly moved the ship away to trick the others into thinking it was an enemy vessel and destroy it. When Sullivan refuses to fire at the ship, Hrix shoots at Baines, and the bullet barely grazes his ear. To save his friend, Sullivan is forced to blow up the ship. At that moment, Cassidy hits Hrix from behind and knocks him unconscious. Baines wants to kill him, but Sullivan stops him and locks Hrix in a room instead. This leads to another argument between Sullivan and Baines, but Cassidy calms Baines down and he walks away. After that, Sullivan and Cassidy decide to scan every telegraph frequency until they can contact someone. During this time, Cassidy apologizes to Sullivan and admits that she lied earlier. She says she truly loves him and only pushed him away because she did not want him to stay trapped on Sentinel forever. Although Sullivan says nothing, he no longer fully trusts Cassidy and decides to investigate on his own. Later, he brings food to Hrix and asks what made him change so suddenly. Hrix explains that according to the coordinates, the rescue ship should have arrived 3 months ago. But someone among them sent false coordinates to mislead it, and after that, the people on board were killed. Sullivan asks Hrix if he is saying that one of them is a traitor, and Hrix answers yes. But Sullivan does not believe him, so he leaves Hrix locked in the room and begins sending messages on every available frequency. Meanwhile, Baines gets heavily drunk and loses control. While Cassidy is asleep in the communications room, he tries to force himself on her, but Cassidy somehow manages to escape. She then realizes that Baines has stolen the keys to the weapons and explosives, so she immediately tells Sullivan. Together, they rush to stop him before he can activate the weapons. In the end, Cassidy calms Baines by reminding him that if he dies here, he will never get to see his family again. Hearing this, Baines breaks down and Cassidy takes the keys back. Sullivan then decides to permanently lock the weapons system so no one can use it again, but to do that he needs the password, and only Hrix knows it. As Sullivan goes to Hrix's room, Baines stops him and says that he went there earlier, but before he arrived, Hrix had jumped into the ocean and killed himself. Sullivan checks the room and finds that Hrix is indeed gone. He then reads the letter Hrix had written, in which he begged command to extend his assignment at Sentinel. This seems very strange to Sullivan. The next day, Cassidy shows Sullivan that Baines has returned to normal and is quietly doing his work. Baines tells them that when he left home, his wife was pregnant, and his only wish is to see his child's face. Moved by his words, Sullivan hugs him. A short time later, Cassidy and Baines go together to collect useful materials from the floating debris in the ocean. Before Baines leaves, Sullivan gives him a gun. Sullivan stays behind and drops a fishing net into the sea, but when he pulls it back up, Hrix's body is tangled in the net. Sullivan immediately realizes that Hrix did not commit suicide. Someone struck him on the head and murdered him. After this, Sullivan checks the records of both Baines and Cassidy. At the same time, we see Cassidy staring at Baines in a very strange way. Sullivan does not find anything suspicious in their files, so he begins reviewing the coordinates Hrix had discovered. From this, he realizes that when the rescue ship first arrived, someone deliberately sent it false coordinates to lead it away from Sentinel and then killed the people on board. Just then, Cassidy comes to Sullivan and tells him that while trying to retrieve something from water, Baines fell into the ocean and died. This incident convinces Sullivan that Cassidy is the traitor, but he says nothing to her at first. The next morning, when Cassidy wakes up, Sullivan contacts her over the walkie-talkie and tells her that he knows she wanted to take control of the weapons system. He accuses her of killing Hrix and Baines and says he will never let her succeed. Cassidy quickly realizes that Sullivan has stolen the weapons keys, so she rushes to the communications room. There, Sullivan is trying to activate the explosives and destroy the entire Sentinel base. Cassidy finally admits that she did everything for her own continent because her people are in desperate need of resources. Sullivan activates the weapons, but nothing happens. It turns out that Baines had secretly modified the system, making it impossible for anyone to launch the missiles. With no other options left, both Sullivan and Cassidy give up. In the end, they come to an understanding that no matter which continent attacks Sentinel in the future, they will defend the base together. Sentinel is now the only world they have left, and the two decide to stay there and live together. With this, the movie comes to an end.